Hello everyone, my name is Christian, welcome to my hobby blog. So I'm back from the break, I guess. I have had a wonderful week watching movies and rewatching movies that I haven't seen in a while. I rewatched Parasite last night because yesterday marked the 2-year anniversary of Parasite by Bong Joon-ho getting an Oscar, the first foreign film to receive an Oscar, I believe. So that was a cause for celebration for me. But I'm mostly here to discuss a series that I have finally finished this week. This is kind of why I took a week off, so I could just focus on this fucking book. Because I love the series a lot. I'm talking about, of course, the first trilogy within the realm of the Elderling series called the Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb. Book 1 is Assassin's Apprentice. Book 2 is Royal Assassin. And then the final book is Assassin's Crest. So these are all by Robin Hobb, who at this point is one of the biggest and best fantasy authors right now. She just wrapped up the final book of the series, Realm of the Elderlings. It's a 16-book series. But what's nice about her is that she splits it up into trilogies, except for the last trilogy, which she split up into 4 books. So you have the Farseer trilogy, you have the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which takes place in another part of the world and features pirates. That's all I know about the sequel. The third trilogy, I don't know what it's called, but it goes back to the main character in this series, and then there's the final quadrilogy or whatever. But what this series is about, if you don't know, is Fitz Chivalry, the bastard. He is the bastard son of the king of this land, the 6 duchies, and he has the power of the skill, which is a capital S skill. So it's a traditional fantasy magic system that, you know, it's a lot of fun. The rules are not at all laid out in this trilogy, and this is kind of the magic of this trilogy, is that you're getting a peep of the magic system and of this world. And so this bastard is taken under wing of Barrick, the stable master, who is very interesting. It's really hard to go into this without spoilers. I'm trying to go without spoilers, but book 1 is basically all about Fitz, the bastard, who is our main POV throughout this entire trilogy. And it's all in first-person POV, so I feel as if I know Fitz from... I just feel like I know him so well. I feel like I know all of these characters really well. Molly, Barrick, Chade, the Fool, Verity, Prince Verity. I absolutely love the series. But book 1 is, of course, I didn't finish my thought, but first book is about Fitz kind of working with Barrick and slowly just getting his feet under him within politics of the castle, of living at the capital city as someone who is absolutely hated because he is a bastard and he's able to skill. And not only can he skill, which is not normal in this world, there's only like 5 people that we know in the series that can do that, but he can also communicate with animals, like telepathically. And so the way that this magic system works is that you can interact with an animal just like how we do, you know, as we would with a dog. But the more you bond with it, the more in tune with its thoughts you become, and soon enough you are able to telepathically talk to each other. And so during book 1 we have a lot of really heartbreaking scenes where our main character bonds with an animal, and in this world that is a total abomination. It is disgusting. You're not allowed to do that. You are seen underneath vermin if you even do that. So there's a lot of heartbreaking plot developments throughout this first book, not even to mention the other books. But this series is so incredible, in my opinion. Again, I feel as if I know every single character in this series. There are so many characters, though, that, at least in the beginning, that you are introduced to, that you don't really know who was supposed to side with. Because just like Robert Jordan, Robin Hobb is so good at writing perspective. And there are multiple times, at least later in the series, when our main character gets a little bit more of a grasp of our magic system, that he is able to just watch other people's conversations, because people who can skill can sometimes look through someone else's eyes, whether they want to or not, to receive this person's conscience into their own bodies. And there are times where you just watch characters talk through him watching out of other people's eyes and kind of realizing their perspective on something that he was 100% sure they felt another way about. And it is so interesting to watch him grow and to be constantly punched down, because this series is very, I don't want to say grimdark. It's not violent enough. It's not filled with rape and just awful shit the entire time, which the grimdark genre is full of. I am fine with the grimdark genre. I haven't read much into it. I'm actually listening to the audiobooks of the Acts of Cain series that was recommended to me. That's really the first strongly grimdark series I've been reading. I don't consider Robin Hobb a grimdark author. She just writes tragedy really well. It's kind of fascinating to read this series and just get one perspective the entire time, because it is absolutely devastating to be in this character's mind the entire way through. But what's funny about book one is it very much feels like a prologue to the conflicts that are in book two and book three, because book one is very much the intro book. You are learning about all of these characters, getting the getting the personalities, getting kind of the characteristics, getting the special just identifiers. Where, like, okay, that guy is the jester, the fool is, okay, Chade is kind of the master, like, rogue of this politicking. And you slowly kind of get to know everyone, and the ending is, I don't remember it being really big, but the implications are, they echo through the rest of the series and the consequences of what happens. And so I was kind of shocked, thinking back and being like, wow, that ending was a lot more scary than I thought it was. But book two was a very heavy slog in a good way, because this book is all about Fitz having to keep alive the king, I guess, of this world, of this capital city at least, because we get really no outside perspectives outside of this guy, and he doesn't get much word from outside the city of Buck's Keep. But it should be noted that while all of this is happening, there are people called the Red Raiders who are attacking villages and turning people into forged beings, which we aren't really sure what is involved in becoming forged. The only reason it's called Forge is because that's the name of the town that it first happens, is Forge. And they basically tear out their souls, and anyone who can skill cannot detect them. And so there are many scenes, at least in book two, where our main character, he's an assassin by this point, he is kind of tasked by his lord to just assassinate forged people because it is seen as a mercy to just kill them off. And watching him over and over again get overwhelmed by these forged beings and having to be saved by a wolf because he just can't detect them is just like, again, he's just getting pounded the entire series. And there are so many heartbreaks of him falling in love and him thinking he trusts somebody but they betray him behind his back, and he gets sent off as punishment, and all these things happen throughout book 2 that are so heartbreaking. And it's so funny to me because I legitimately didn't realize how long it took me to read this series. It took me a year and a half. I started reading book 1 in October of 2020. This was around the time when I was just starting Wheel of Time. I had read maybe up to The Great Hunt, maybe Eye of the World at most. I was gearing up for Rhythm of War, book 4 of the Stormlight Archives, which I am not ready for book 5 coming next year. That it feels like yesterday that he had announced that he was writing book 4. Like, I've been following Brandon Sanderson for 7 years now, roughly. So I'm kind of in a time loop now. But I started book 1 in October 2020, and I didn't pick up book 2 until March of 2021, and it was this month. I think it was about January, maybe December of, well, I guess January 2022 or December 2021, that I finally picked up book 3. That's not to say that these books are bad and that I just had to slog through it. I did have to slog through it, but I think that was on purpose because Fitz has no idea what is going on with his ailing king. And it's like right at the end we find out why. And our main character, again, is just pounded into the dirt. And can't really say much more about the ending of that. But it's one of the biggest endings, I think, aside from the end of book 3. But it is absolutely wonderful, book 2. But again, you're kind of confused along with our main character, and you have to watch him slowly piece it out. Oh, you're wrong. Okay, go over here, piece it out. Nope, that's wrong. Go over here. Oh gosh, that's what's happening, and it's too late to do anything about it. It is absolutely just heartbreaking, this entire series. I've said that enough. But I think it was book 3, which is the biggest book of them all, Assassin's Crest. If you haven't noticed, these book covers are absolutely cringy, and I don't like them. An old man is caressing a young boy's head while he's hugging a dog. I like this one the most, book 2, Royal Assassin, where he's, romance cover, opening his arms to the sky with the wolf howling beside him. Which, by the way, I don't want to spoil anything, but this wolf character is the best. I am very happy with the end of the trilogy and where these characters end up, because he's the goodest of boys and I don't want anything to happen to him. So I was pretty happy by the end of the series. And then book 3, of course, is, a dragon, and we don't really know what's going on here. I love the pupper, though. He's just singing his song. But book 3, I loved from cover to cover. It took me a while to finally get to a groove where I was reading, good amount of chapters every night. It was this week that I finally finished it. Today's Friday, February 11th. And I finished it last night and then just passed out because I was I felt finally at ease with myself because I have been reading this trilogy. I understand why it took me a year and a month to finish The Wheel of Time. I don't get why it took me a year and a half to finish 3 books. I finished Mistborn Era 1 in like a week the first time I read it. And on my second read, I finished those books in about 2 weeks. So that's what I was expecting. I think I started reading this trilogy as a way to take a breath before Rhythm of War. And here we are approaching the release of The Lost Metal, Book 4 of Era 2 of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. And I'm just now finishing this book. So, Book 3 is basically a really fun fetch quest, if you're a World of Warcraft fan. It's very much going from here, retrieving a thing, going here, but in the end, you're reaching one destination. And, oh my god. This book wasn't as depressing. Our character has a whole lot more agency, because by this point of the series, everybody has left him, and he's just on his own, and there's like maybe one person he can depend on, but because of who our main character is, he's constantly driving people away with his toxicity, with him feeling like the worst of everybody because he's an assassin and all this different stuff. But a lot of people did not like Book 3. I don't know why. I looked at reviews afterwards just to kind of get my bearings, get what people have been saying about this book. Because I haven't looked at anything about this series since I began. Because I'm the type of person who hates spoilers. I started reading these books, and I knew that our character is constantly punched down on all 16 books or whatever, or at least all the books that he's involved in. But Book 3 is the least depressing, in my opinion. There were a few times where I was kind of teary-eyed, but compared to the other two books, it's like a Miyazaki film, like a Studio Ghibli, because, oh my gosh, this book just takes off so much weight from our character's shoulder, and slowly watching him just not be as affected anymore by betrayal, by unexpected unexpected results of things that he's been trying to do, and it going a totally different direction than he expected, and him having to rationalize his feelings and say, no, this is positive, this is positive. I cannot think of it negatively. But I have a huge issue in terms of the back of the books right here. I can't show it too long, because there are huge fucking spoilers on the back. And I remember I was reading book 2, and I got about halfway done, and I was really feeling the slog. And again, it is not a bad slog. This is the type of slog that when you finish, you're like, I understand now why the author wrote it this way, because we're in the mind of a character who doesn't know what's going on. But while I was trying to get, like, motivated again to continue, like, pushing through the series, because I could only read 2 or 3 chapters at a time, because there's so much happening each and every chapter. So much feeling, so much story development. It's insanity. But I looked at the back of book 3 because I was like, I need a taste of what's coming next. And the first sentence, and maybe the second sentence, spoils everything about book 2, and it pissed me off so much. But it did not take away from the journey. The journey is very much worth it. This is probably one of the best series I've ever read, and I'm only 3 books in. It does end with not many questions left. I mean, I personally have a whole lot of questions after finishing Assassin's Crest, book 3, because I know there are 13 other books. I know the next trilogy is a totally different cast. So I'm not confused on that, but I'm confused on the other 2 trilogies. Well, the trilogy and the quadrilogy, featuring our character Fitz. And I'm just wondering, because at the end of this book, we get kind of like an epilogue about the world and all of our characters we've been following. And it feels very conclusive. And I've heard through the grapevine before I even started years ago that Robin Hobb did not envision the series as 16 books or whatever. She finished the trilogy and said, like, oh, I'm done. I may visit this world again, but we're done with Fitz. And it very much felt like that at the end of this series. And so I get the pirate ship trilogy because everyone recommends those books for people who want to scratch that itch of reading a piracy-focused fantasy series. But I'm very curious what happens later in our main character's story, because it ends very conclusively. And I'm very curious what incites this character back into whatever story, greater story that we see in this series. This series is my favorite. I'm so happy I got this used. And not to say that I didn't want to spend full price on this, but I got all 3 of these books at my used bookstore near where I live now. And back when I used to do book haul videos, I don't do them anymore because I still have 40 books that I need to read. But back when I was doing those, I talked about how all those used books are like 20 cents each, maybe up to $3 if they're recent. And these books were each just a single dollar, maybe 50 cents. And they're in pretty good health. I mean, the spines are getting really cracked now. You can kind of see here, at least on this right here, kind of. But, like, what a bang for your buck. I don't think I'm going to trade these in for just to kind of gain back my money. Because I have a bit of a want to reread these books eventually. Now that I know the full story and the scope and where everything goes, because that was my main issue in book 1. I didn't know where the series was going at all. It was about halfway through the 3rd book that I kind of saw where the series was going, at least this trilogy, because book 2 is so small scale, and it's hard to talk about without spoiling, but this is probably one of my favorite series of all time to read. That's really all I can say. I don't know what other points that I have. I loved the characters. I loved them all. Even the bad ones. Even the ones that I love to hate. There's one character named Prince Regal who I just could not stand this entire series. And I think that's why this 2nd book especially was a slog for me. Because he kind of becomes the main villain of the series. There really isn't a villain in book 1. You have people who are combative towards our main character, but that's just because he's the bastard and he's getting showered with all these gifts and people are jealous of him. And that's how Regal is. He's just so pissed at the higher treatment that Fitz, this bastard son, gets. But I have so many questions for the next few books, or for the rest of the series. I am unsure what my next book will be that I will read. I don't think I would do every book. I don't think I will do a review of every book that I read. This series, I just felt like I needed to talk about because I just finished it last night. So I definitely have that post-book depression going on. But we're not done with these characters. This is the Farseer Trilogy. Absolutely amazing. Same publisher as George R. R. Martin, so you do see George R. R. Martin giving quotes. I think at least in the first few pages where they have a couple authors give kind of the recommendation, like, yeah, you should read this. But I heard about Robin Hobb from George R. R. Martin way back in the day when she was writing the 3rd trilogy, I believe, before she even started the final quadrilogy. And I remember watching an interview with her and George R. R. Martin where they were just kind of talking about writing fantasy. and she just really blew me away. She's very, very knowledgeable. Reading this series, I mean, tells you all you need to know about her, how smart she is, how in tune with the human nature that she is. The more I talk about it, the more I just want to just turn this camera off and just go get the next trilogy and begin. But I'm going to take a few books break. I'm going to probably read either the last book in Era 1 of Mistborn or continue with the Witcher series. I may do a Witcher series review, kind of talk about it vaguely, kind of like I did here. I know I didn't go deep into every single book because it's really hard to discuss without spoilers. So, thank you all for watching, and please let me know what you think about this series if you've read it. If you haven't, please go read it. This is such an incredible series. Get the ones that don't have this cover. There's some really, really cool ones from the UK, I believe, that are kind of big paperbacks. But, yeah. Thank you all so much for watching.